This is a walk through the forest. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode. I'm your host, Gabriel Zavala, and I want to talk to you about something a little different today. You all know about how important trees are to the environment, but I would like to enlighten you on a very specific group of trees that I have some personal experience related to: the redwoods. The redwoods are a group of trees that are found primarily in California and also a little bit into Oregon. And these trees, that are millions of years old, according to the Sempervirens Fund, have been around for about 240 million years. And in California, for at least 20 million years. These trees have been an integral part of the land they inhabit and have provided a home for many different species and forms of wildlife. In fact, just to put it into some sort of perspective, that is as old as some dinosaurs. Now, I have seen these trees before, and it was one beautiful sight. I was on a vacation with my family and some close family friends, and we went to Oregon as part of a little road trip that we were on. And we really just listened to our friends on where to go for this road trip, like along the path, but we at least got to look at what was ahead of us and choose to go wherever sounded cool if there was something that interested us. So my dad looked online and found an article about the Redwood Forest and read a little bit about them. To him, it sounded interesting enough. And I always trusted my dad on historical sites and tourist attraction stuff since he's a huge history nerd and likes seeing this kind of stuff. But at first, I didn't see the appeal. I mean, what could be so cool about some huge, tall trees? But on the way there, my dad was telling me about the forest a little bit, telling me just how massive they were and how awesome it looked with the trees towering over you. He told me how apparently they have some of the most wildlife of any forest because of just how much land the forest covers. And a lot of other stuff that my little kid brain just found super exciting. If only back then I understood just what I was in store for. And after walking through a trail in that forest, I can definitely say that he wasn't lying. In fact, he may have been underselling it, because when you stand next to one of those trees, you can't help but just marvel at their size. Once we made it to the start of the trail, we were greeted by someone in a shack behind a desk. There, we asked for a map and the tour guide, and we got set up with one guy who he definitely seemed to find the redwoods very interesting. Either that, or he put on a very good fake voice to make him sound interested in the redwoods. But either way, it worked on me, and I was getting hooked. We walked a little into the forest, and from the outside they seemed gigantic. But once you walked further in, that's when you truly realize how magnificent these trees really are. It felt as if I was getting smaller the further I walked into the forest. Like a small bug or mouse that somehow made its way into someone's house, and I was scrounging around. But instead of looking for food, it was as if I was looking at all the furniture in someone's home, appreciating just how nice everything fit together. And the trees were truly marvelous. When on the ground and looking straight at it, the stump itself is so big, it took all 8 of us just to wrap around it and give it like a hug. Then you look up, and you see how it holds its stature, so upright and firm. And you can barely see the sun coming through all the leaves and branches. I mean, once you stand next to one, you can easily see how these are considered the tallest trees in the world, especially considering that they can grow past 300 feet. Now, you might be considering how these trees have been alive for so long. I mean, when you think about it, a tree as huge as these ones must require a lot of energy and maintenance after all, right? Well, so many nutrients are needed to help it grow, and the ground would practically have to flood in order to supply enough water to these things. Well, that's because these trees are able to make the environment around them suit them better. For instance, the Sempervirens Fund also says that the roots of these trees intertwine with each other, providing more support and stability to each other, and a parent tree is able to support growing trees by providing water and sugars. And even when the parent dies, the new trees support each other, as they hold something like a bond together, as though they were family, even though they don't have to be. These are just neighboring trees that are able to help each other grow, support each other. And not only that, but these trees are also able to form their own rain, if you will. Redwoods prefer an overall moist environment in order to get water, And they prefer it so much that they absorb moisture from fog and even the air itself and condense that absorption into water that then soaks into their leaves, and then the water flows through, soaking the roots below. And if they deem that water unnecessary, they can release it back into the atmosphere and make the environment around them much cooler in temperature. Now think about that. These trees are so in tune with their environment and can be so efficient that they take whatever water they deem unnecessary and excessive and put it somewhere else where it may be more useful. It's incredible. Now, these trees are vital for many different reasons. The first main reason I want to discuss is the amount of sheer wildlife they home. I've been somewhat hinting at it throughout the entire time of me talking about these trees, but I really want to dive deep into this crucial aspect of the redwoods. See, these trees have been seen creating entire ecosystems. That ground floor that I was standing on right beside the tree, little did I know that I was in one of thousands of potential ecosystems in that entire forest. In that space alone, there could have been many different plants, from ferns to moss to lichens to anything. The leaves alone have so many nutrients packed into them that when they fall and decompose, they can practically turn dirt into soil. And I could pick up a handful of that soft, packed soil, and I would be holding an amount of microorganisms 10 times more than the entire population on Earth. Anyway, as we kept moving through the forest, you could hear in the distance an array of noises. Birds chirping, leaves rustling, all kinds of things. The tour guide pointed out to the woods from the trail, and we could see a black bear sitting and watching us. I still remember that bear. Large, shiny eyes, soft, black fur, and a giant size that didn't intimidate me, but made me want to cuddle with it, like it was a beanbag chair. And behind that bear, you could see a tiny cub poking its head out, looking just like its mama. I would have sat there and had a staring contest all day with those two, but the tour guide ushered us on. But I still maintained eye contact until the redwoods got in the way, protecting those bears from us. And that's when it hit me. This was their home. And here we are, lucky enough to walk beside and take a glance inside their home. I consider myself lucky to be able to witness this. Well, that was until I saw something that sticks with me to this day. A truly sad sight. It was in the distance, but I could see sunlight pouring into the forest. The entire trail was fairly shadowed, and there wasn't a lot of sunlight for us to see far into the forest, but there it was. One of the redwoods just gone. I can't recall if the tree looked like it was cut on purpose or if it simply fell due to old age and the stump was jagged, but either way, it just felt so polar. There it was, the light shining through the broken canopy, marking almost like a wound in the forest. And when looking at where the light shined, there was nothing to be even found. Just the sad remaining life of a stump, as the rest of the tree had been taken elsewhere, most likely taken for logging by humans. Now, thinking about this situation, I can't help but feel immeasurable disappointment that these trees can't even be left alone and have to be harvested. While the redwoods offer so much wood as a resource, I can't help but feel as though someone barged into another's house and stole some piece of furniture for their own personal use. While I don't want to turn this topic into a case of protecting all trees from logging, it just feels as though these are the one type of tree that should be preserved. These trees have been around for ages, but it's no surprise that some were lost on the way. However, in this case, many have been lost on the way. As I said before, the redwood trees are extremely resistant to the atmosphere, to the point they can create their own environment that's most suitable for them. But there are so many of them that have been lost, not because of fires or insects or diseases or any other natural cause. Today, only about 5% of the original old-growth redwood trees remain. This dramatic decline is largely due to logging, which surged after the earthquake and fire in San Francisco in 1906. Ironically, it wasn't a natural disaster in the forest that destroyed the redwoods, but the rebuilding of a city that relied heavily on redwood timber. The trees themselves survived, but they were cut down to help replace the structures that hadn't. To put that into perspective, I want you to remember earlier how when I walked through the forest, I considered a home that I just took a casual stroll through, as if I walked into someone's house practically uninvited. Now, instead of just walking through, I'm taking pieces of that home for my own personal needs. Sometimes maybe I start with taking a little bit and a little more, but then eventually I take a window and a door and I start to realize how nice they all are. And eventually I take a little more and more until taking a whole wall and taking more and more until it's left with nothing but the base floor and all the pipes and concrete underneath. I've taken everything from that house, leaving that bear and her child without any home. Now, if that hasn't sold you on these marvelous trees, and you're still looking for a so what, the reason why we should focus our efforts on protecting and restoring redwood forests, then let me paint the bigger picture for you. These trees are not only breathtaking, they are environmental powerhouses with the ability to help mitigate one of the greatest challenges of our time, climate change. Climate change is a commonly discussed problem of our modern day and age, and thanks to their immense size and long lifespan, redwoods are incredibly efficient at storing carbon. In fact, according to the U.S. Forest Service, old-growth redwood forests store more carbon per acre than any other forest type on Earth. That means that acre for acre, these trees are doing more work to pull carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and lock it away than any other forest. When left undisturbed, these forests become massive carbon reservoirs, playing a crucial role in regulating our climate. Just thinking about the image of a single forest packing all that carbon into a small space that another entire forest would need feels like a superpower these forests have, being the heroes that we need. But it's not just the old growth trees that matter. Even younger, second growth redwoods grow quickly and have a high capacity for carbons to capture. This makes the restoration of redwoods ecosystems a practical and hopeful path forward. Not just an act of nostalgia or for beauty, but a scientifically sound investment in the planet's health. So when we talk about saving the redwoods, it's not just for the sake of preserving something ancient and majestic. It's about actively fighting climate change, improving air quality, and protecting habitats. These trees are already doing the hard work. It's just up to us to make sure they can keep doing it. Now, after walking through the world of the redwoods, seeing everything they've grown and built themselves and seeing how much they lost, it's hard not to feel like the redwoods are owed. These trees have done so much for us in the past and will only continue with their efforts into the future. They hold entire ecosystems together, provide for humans like us, and do their part to help solve problems that we've created and we ourselves are struggling to solve. And yet they can't ask us for help personally. They can't talk to us. It's on us to make the call. Whether through spreading awareness or supporting the restoration efforts through donations, many of us can play a part in protecting these guardians of nature. And I don't think little me thought of all this when he first saw those beauties. But hopefully now, this older version of me will think of what to do to help those trees in my own way. And I hope you can find your own personal way as well. But anyway, stay safe, folks, and tune in next time for whatever nature nonsense I want to talk about. Until next time.